Moxall, thank you very much for the bits. Sorry, I'm just trying to finish getting set up here. I don't really have a countdown timer anymore. It broke when I switched to OBS. There we go. Alright, I think I'm good to go. Good evening, everyone. My name is Phil Gallagher. I run Thraben University, a site exclusively for legacy death and taxes, and that is what I'm going to be playing with today. I'm starting a little bit earlier than normal because, you know, I'm not working tomorrow due to the holidays, but I do have some other holiday plans that I need to see to. So I'm going to be trying out a couple of things. I'm probably going to stream for about 3 hours or something like that, and then we'll kind of see where we're at the end of this. Tonight's deck list is me just like trying some things out to kind of get a feel for them. The deck list that I'm going to play tonight is essentially a mashup of a deck list I had been playing, plus taking some things that Thomas Enevoldsen came up with in one of his deck lists and kind of mashing them together. And this is the like mutant hybrid offspring. Mike, I did see the Pokemon Go announcements. I'm looking forward to that. It kind of happened right as I was getting ready to stream, so I haven't looked into all of the details. But if all the previous Community Day Pokemon are coming back, that's sweet, and I'm really looking forward to that. I don't want to do an extensive deck tech tonight because this is me trying stuff. This isn't me like giving you the answer and saying like I think everything here is good. So here's what I have been playing. And I'm just going to like highlight the differences and then move on. I'm not really going to offer like extensive explanations of the changes. So here's what I've been playing. From what I was doing before, I tried trimming a mom, Hallowed Spirit Keeper, Ballista, and Palace Jailer made it to the main deck. The Prelate got shoved to the sideboard, and we were trying out Cataclysms over Gideon. Versus here's what I'm going to play tonight. I'm just going to try playing with more copies of Palace Jailer. The card is very, 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 very good against control decks, while also being powerful against a couple other archetypes. You know, Sneak and Show is really on the rise, and having Palace Jailer as something that you can just dump in is extremely powerful. So I'm going to try more copies of that. Again, like cutting the Cataclysms from the board to just like kind of like hedge more game one against the control decks by playing another Jailer. I'm going to try out Wingmares to combat the recent string of combo decks that are popping up, and I'm going to shove one Ancient Tomb in there just to see how it feels over one Rishadan Port. Enevoldsen has been playing an Ancient Tomb off and on for a while. I can kind of see it being pretty sweet as a one-of with like these chalices, but more importantly, it's going to like let me play turn 2 Wingmare or turn 3 Jailer, assuming I can get like white otherwise, and accelerating that out more quickly seems decent. The chances of actually getting like Ancient Tomb and a Chalice in my opener is actually kind of small. Like it will happen, obviously, and it'll be super good when it does, but it's not something I'm too worried about. That's all the deck tech that I'm going to do. And then I'll do a more extensive debrief at the end after I go and try this out. I just want to get into some games tonight. I just want to play some Magic. Everyone and their mother is streaming Legacy right now, by the way, which is super cool. So there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, there's like 7 Legacy streams right now. That's awesome. This is no good. This is a mulligan. This one I'll probably keep. Let's see if I have any data on my opponent real quick, though. Nope. Do I want second Stoneforge? I don't hate second Stoneforge. Like, the hand that I have here is a fair hand, so, like, the games that we win are going to be against fair decks, and Stoneforge is, like, absolutely fine versus fair decks. No, just experimental D&T, not experimental frenzy D&T. Which I do still think that idea has legs, by the way. I just didn't put any more time into trying it out. The first one of these is going to grab Batterskull, incentivize my opponent to remove it, and then I'll violin a second Stoneforge and get some value. I still really don't know what my opponent is doing, though. They very well could just be like a Reanimator deck, and we're just going to see like Entomb here into Big Fatty. Yup. So of note here, my opponent has Swamp and fetched one of those. My opponent actually might be on the mono-black Reanimator rather than black-red Reanimator. We'll probably find out by the end of this turn one way or another. I expect that I am very dead. I'm not going to concede until, like, after my opponent discards and I take my next draw step, in all likelihood, because, like, I can still potentially wiggle my way out of this. It's just very bad. Note, my opponent's decision to get Elesh Norn is probably pretty poor. This is really exposing them to, like, a Caracas-based blowout. I don't think this is right unless they have something like Tidespout Tyrant already in their hand, or just, like, completely lack that card in their deck. Well, remember that thing that I was just talking about? It happened. Opponent is black-red, by the way. Yeah, there's that tie spout tyrant you could have had before. Would have been so much better than the Eleshnorn. Neat. Good. Return Eleshnorn now. Cause that to be sacrificed. I'm going to play sort of a creature that's not particularly valuable here, but this has a really important purpose. So I'm going to get Umezawa's Jitte here. That way, even if my Stoneforge dies, I have lethal next turn by viling in Mirran Crusader and like equipping it with Jitte. I only need like a single point more damage in order to just kill them. Now, Tie Spout Tyrant can muck up my plans quite a bit. But the scales are probably tipping in my favor here. Reanimate is basically off. Exhume's still fine, but slightly awkward. Animate dead, targeted Chancellor. That's fine. Opponent targets my Ether Vial. I'll put in a Crusader, and then we'll see where we go from here. Like, the follow-up question is, how many spells can my opponent rattle off? Opponent feels safe enough to attack. That's probably not a good thing for me. Casting Exhume does not seem great. Puts a Grizzlebrand into play, which just gets bounced. I get a Stoneforge, get another piece of equipment. I guess my opponent is just using this to unsummon Mirran Crusader. So the obligatory play is bouncing Grizzlebrand. That just has to happen. And now everything else in my hand is going to cost one more. Equipping anything this turn doesn't make a lot of sense. Like, I can equip, swing in, get some Jitte counters, and that negates one of those attacks. Or I can just, like, play out another creature. I can just, like, redeploy this, make them bounce it again, or they'll die. But then mostly be in the same position as the previous turn. Alternatively, I can just pass, put in Batterskull, put in Sword, and then have a diverse set of threats for the next turn. I kind of like that. Yeah, I'm really glad that I am not usually searching for Search for Azcanta. The opponent can discard Grizzlebrand and Elesh Norn here. If the opponent has enough spells that they can cast, they won't end up throwing this game away. Like, if opponent has yet another spell in order to, like, take my Germ off the table now, I am in bad shape, because I'm just going to take 8 here. I think my opponent has misplayed a number of different ways this game. Most notably, not getting the Tidespout Tyrant with the first spell. Interesting. So unfortunately, I can't deal with either one of those creatures, so I'm gonna die. I couldn't capitalize on my opponent's mistakes, which is really unfortunate. Alright, so how am I gonna board? Probably play the Jailer, probably play this, Judgment, Recruiter, Priest, Surgicals, Chalice and Paths are on the table as well. I'm experimenting. I don't necessarily think what I'm doing is good tonight. I'm just trying some stuff out. So I usually cut the Stoneforge, package. When I'm playing Chalice, I cut Mom, otherwise I think Mom's fine. Maybe I won't play Swords and Path. It's awkward. And I'll cut one generic beater. Call that good. Yeah, so tonight I just wanted to just try some various things out. You can check the Cardboard Live extension on screen to see exactly what I'm mucking around with, but this was the thought. I'll keep this hand. Like, I have a powerful curve of, like, Revoker into Wingmare into Jailer. I have a disruptive element for the first Grizzlebrand that can hit play as well. You can't always just, like, mulligan to, like, Surgical or Graveyard Hate in this matchup. So if opponent, like, bins a... Oh, opponent does not have a creature to bin. That bodes very well for me. One of my best draws would just be, like, Thalia here. Stack Thalia with the pony. Win target game. So we name Grizzlebrand with the first one of these. Just stop my opponent from, like, oops, accidentally 14ing me. Just draw all the cards. But opponent's hand is likely pretty clunky. I don't like my opponent playing their Bayou or Lotus Petal before playing their Faithless Looting. I think that's very poor to just go and, like, limit your options for what you can discard. Hey, Agate, welcome. I have a large number of options this turn. They all end with the Grizzlebrand leaving the table unless I just want to jam Wingmare, but I think I'll just jam Wingmare next turn. I can just bounce the Grizzlebrand. I can just Council Judgment it forever and make so that it is never, ever, ever an issue. I can Swords to Plowshare it. House Spirit Keeper is basically there for Grixis control specifically. Walking Ballista is good against control decks in the mirror. I think there's an argument for playing this turn a lot of different ways. I'm just going to bounce that Grizzlebrand and just, like, keep all of these removal spells for later. This could potentially come back to bite me, like, if my opponent, like, removes the Revoker and gets the Grizzlebrand back into play again. But I think my opponent's most likely sequence on their next turn is to just flashback Faithless Looting and discard it again, in which case I get a huge amount of tempo thrown in my favor. Yeah, so there's the Grizzlebrand being discarded. This is why I only play with 2 Caracas. I hate it when this happens so much. So I have two answers that can hit just about any kind of creature. I have Grizzlebrand covered with the Caracas. My opponent's hand is also weak to boot, so I literally do not care if you reanimate Elesh Norn. Takes 7 in order to do so. But, otherwise you just have to pass the turn. Yeah, that's the same as all those dudes attacking, so deal. Or I guess better. Well, that's a pretty solid draw. So note, my opponent's reanimates are mostly off at this stage. They can still reanimate some of my stuff, like them reanimating my jailer, for example, is a little annoying. Yeah. I think my opponent messed up again. They're supposed to attack with Elesh Norn before doing this, so that when I bounce Elesh Norn, they have the possibility of discarding it to put it back into the graveyard rather than it getting stuck in their hand. I think my opponent's relatively new to their deck. Wow, my opponent is discarding Dread of Night. Their hand is either stacked or they really don't know what they're doing. Yeah, I'm a little confused, Moxall. I wonder if I should not try to play these chalices when I'm on the draw in this matchup, because they're a little awkward in the first place, and I wonder if on the draw I'm supposed to just play path mom instead, and just have a greater density of cards that matter, or I should say cards that are more impactful in the early game. The chalices are much better if you can play them before your opponent gets something into the graveyard. Yeah, opponent discarded their Dread of Night rather than playing it. And then I played 2 X1 creatures, and they were sad and conceded. Like, if I know my opponent's playing Dread, that would make the mom worse, though. Yeah, I don't really know why my opponent thinks they need Dread of Night. But I don't know why my opponent made most of the decisions they did that game, so there's that. Alright, so maybe I won't play Mom considering Dread of Night. And maybe if I want to respect Dread of Night, maybe I go something like -Wisp, -Wisp, and play like 2 Stone Forges and a Batter Skull, just to have a little bit more of a package that can be resilient to Dread of Night. This would make me have an extremely high density of removal spells. So much for my decision to like try out some Vryn Wingmares, thinking that like D&T is not super well positioned right now, so people are going to stop hating on it. This hand's pretty stellar. So like I have a Caracas to bounce a legendary creature. I have 2 different removal spells. I have Athalia for taxation. And I was about to say the hand is still pretty resilient to discard as well. So all in all, good things with this hand. Alright, since opponent knows about the Caracas, we can just lead on this. Only half kidding, but I might try to play around Massacre for a little while this game. Okay, another example of like opponent just like making what is potentially an error. They don't really need to entomb for something prior to their draw step unless they already have the reanimation spell. Like, they can get the archetype of Endurance out of their deck to, like, avoid the 1 in 53 chance of drawing it. But I think, like, having the Lotus Petal around and increasing the number of options you have is more important. Alright, so just a note about what's happened here. I have Council's Judgment to answer this, so unless my opponent has a discard spell, they've just, like, super punted. Yeah, so my opponent probably just punted this game away. So this turn I can play Vryn Wingmare off my Ancient Tomb, make it harder for them to take my Council's Judgment. It also just gives me the mana I need to cast Council's Judgment through my own tax next turn. Note, they can still go, like, Unmask me or land Thoughtseize me and get rid of the Council's Judgment. Reverent Silence, Legacy All-Star. All right, Dread of Night is a great Magic card. That's a great way to get back into this game. However, that is still going to leave me with a Palace Jailer. Super rewarded for bringing the Stoneforge in after seeing my opponent's Dread of Night. Yeah, if I were a Reanimator player, I would most certainly take one of E.W. Landon's list and use that if I didn't know what I was doing. I agree. Magic's hard. All right, we have a great hand. It's a bit of an annoying card to start against this hand in particular, just since I have like such a good mana denial hand. I'm going to lead on Wasteland Ether Vial, and I'm somewhat likely to like double Wasteland my opponent unless they play like True Name Nemesis this turn. God damn it. Yeah, so I'm probably just like gonna lose this game to the die roll. That's super unfortunate. Yeah, I mean, Moxel, I'm with you. I'm really glad that like turn 2 True Names don't happen nearly as often. We're gonna need like a Stoneforge Mystic in order to race my opponent's True Name. It being 4 a turn because of this Noble Hierarch is really obnoxious. And our draws are not good here. Like, our opening hand was really ideal, but Vial and Mom as the last 2 draws is rough, given what's happened elsewhere. And now I can't really even Wasteland my opponent because I need to just, like, leave this Vial around on 2, or, like, always have a Vial on 2 in hopes that I can just get to the point where I Vial in a Stoneforge Mystic, get a piece of equipment into play, and can realistically race this. And as a result, my opponent's probably going to get to, like, stick a Jace. Oh, him to Turok. Well, I wanted to be left with the land, so this is fine. Yeah, Orem, I'm with you. A lot of times I just tell, like, Reanimator players, there's such a huge proportion of the time where if you just, like, get a Grave Titan, I'll just die. I think if my opponent would have played, like, just about literally any other creature other than Archetype, it would have been better. Like, admittedly, we did have the Council's Judgment to super punish them for the line that they took. But, like, Archetype of Endurance loses to something as simple as Mom, right? So... doesn't feel great. Yeah, now even if I draw Stoneforge next turn, I can't, like, play Jitte and equip. This is the point where I feel safe in packing it up. This game is totally different if I win the die roll. Still hard, but I've got a chance. Alright, so we're playing against, like, a bug true name deck. I'll want Council's Judgment for true name. Probably play Relic Warrior. My opponent's likely to have, like, some random Jittes or something in there to take advantage of the true names. Actually, I can pull up their last list. Their last list only had one Jitte and didn't have another post sideboard, so maybe I won't do that. Just kind of hope to dodge that. I usually don't like Chalice against bug decks because they can just, like, abrupt decay it and then it unlocks all their stuff again. It's not going to sit on the table forever. True name's so obnoxious. Like, for this, like, 3x Palace Jailer build that I'm on, this is really crippling. This is not a card I'm looking to play against. So I'll probably play Ballista. Opponent says TNN is a dumb card. Ugh. I'm not prepared for this matchup. So, like, I don't really want to be playing these. This is kind of mediocre. This is kind of mediocre. Honestly, a lot of my cards are. How many basics does my opponent have? Can I just path them? No, my opponent has 3 basics. That's not free. Alright, so I'll probably trim a Wisp or 2. They're not awesome against Baleful Strix. I know my opponent has, like, Lily, Last Hopes, and Mana Dork, so I don't want to get rid of these. Maybe I won't play... Oh, no. That's 60. Yeah, like there's Containment Priest as well, right? Like there's plenty of good cards in those side products. This is fine. This is like a really solid D&T hand, right? With a land in my top few cards, I can curve Mom into Thalia into Wingmare, and that's really strong against these sorts of decks. All right, not getting to Wasteland on turn 2, but we will get to Thalia. Come on, just resolve. Yeah. Now I'll curve Thalia into Thalia's Pony, and then probably like strand these cards in my hand awkwardly. This is fine. So I'm trying to decide if Thalia's Pony is better, or whether I should just Wasteland and Stoneforge. 100% not sure. I get super blown out by something like a Marsh Casualties in the future. I think I want to attack on 2 different angles here. So I'm going to take the land and play Stoneforge. The rationale being that if I miss on the land drop, I can just dump a Batterskull in play. And if I hit a land drop, I just play Thraben Wingmare. Sandstone, the only matchup where I board out Vials basically is Nick Fit, because they also ramp you, and you are like potentially losing Vials to Pernicious Deed. That's basically it. Yeah, Leovold is fine. You can have Leovold all day on this board. And now I just have to decide how aggressive I want to get this turn. I think it's time to just get aggressive. Opponent can have a card. The cards don't mean nearly as much when your opponent can't actually cast them. And I have my opponent dead very, very quickly. I really wanted to get the Wingmare equipped so that something like a kicked Marsh Casualties wasn't just going to destroy me. %, willing to just take that damage. I am on the better side of the equation when it comes to the clock here. Opponent can like deluge for 3, which would be devastating. Their Leovold would now live due to the Exalted, but that doesn't happen. So awesome. Yeah, let me talk about the YouTube stuff after this game. Like, I'm very, very favored to win this, but I just have to figure out how to, like, not screw it up. So I'm going to start by removing their Leovold. I'm going to be targeting them this turn, like, one way or another. Nah, using the Swords of Plowshares is probably too aggressive. Ooh. That's not necessarily something I was playing around. That's fine, though. Am I willing to tap to protect this? Yes, I think so. All right, I thought I paid for that. Oh, I have the horse as well. Not used to that. Double tax, definitely better than single tax. Agreed. So to answer the YouTube question, I can just kind of like hang out here for a minute, pretend I'm re-sideboarding. Yes. So I posted around a little bit trying to get people to follow me on my YouTube channel, and in less than 48 hours, I gained 300 more followers, and I was able to submit my application for a YouTube partner. So they say they'll get back to me within a month, and then I should be able to make a little bit of revenue from that like ads that are playing on my YouTube channel anyway. So that's cool, and I'm looking forward to that. So, like, thank you all for your support. You know, growing the channel from 700 to 1,000 followers essentially overnight when I just asked people, like, hey, if you like my content, please follow it. That's kind of a big deal. So this is not what I would consider a good hand, but I'm keeping it because I have a council's judgment, and the way that I will usually lose this matchup is to just to my opponent playing an early true name that I can't deal with. And honestly, because I have so many lands here, I'm actually very tempted to just like snap this wasteland off on my opponent's stuff. Try to like make them stumble and then like revoke the hierarch in a wingmare, council's judgment, their thing that matters. Wastelanding when your opponent has a mana dork in play is not the best, but I think it's fine given the context of my hand. Captain QC, I'm trying some stuff out tonight. Just trying things. We'll see how they feel. Kind of just hoping it's like just Leovold here instead of true name. Surprise! It is me, true name Nemesis. This is a good draw. So I can just Stoneforge for Sword of Fire and Ice and try to race. I can revoke Hierarch, knowing that I can Council Judgment away this true name, which might actually be better, though. I have not tried... Alright, except for this one time, I have not tried Thought Knot in D&T. I tried it in a weird version that like had some Eldrazi Displacers and stuff. The issue is that like your 4-mana cards need to be really, really good, or you need to be cheating on them in some way. But I really liked whatever they saw in that Ponder. They kept quite quickly. Opponent's got it all over there. This one's going to be hard. Which one of these is less beatable if I leave it on the table? True name's 4 a turn, meaning I'm dead in 4 turns. Bitter Blossom is 0 the first turn, but some amount every turn after that. I think it's true name, and I can try to wiggle through Bitter Blossom with Stoneforge. I'm going to take my 2 points of damage and let my opponent attack me back for 1. That's okay. One of the other ways I can beat Bitter Blossom is just, like, drain them out over time. Fuck! Come on! Alright. I'm okay. I have a plan. My plan is I'm going to put a Sword of Fire and Ice on Mirran Crusader and win the game. That is the plan. None of these things will block that bad boy. And if opponent attacks in with the true name, I get to crash back and hit in quite hard. But I'm going to lose to something like an Abrupt Decay or Assassin's Trophy. That's a 1-of in their deck, by the way. Just to throw that out there. God, that's so frustrating. I guess the world where I win is the world where they for some reason don't put Jitte onto True Name and they put on a Fairy Rogue and I can remove it. But I don't think that's going to happen, so I need to probably play towards scenarios where my opponent just fucks up. True Name, Bitter Blossom, and Jitte. That is a rough sequence of 4 cards. Can't, port them off of Jitte, unfortunately. Holy shit. Holy shit. You even, know about this. Yep, the opponent is bad, but opponent is also lucky, right? And those two things balance out when you're a 4x True Name deck. God, let me draw an equipment and punish. Let me draw an equipment and punish. Well, actually, this isn't the worst, right? I still don't have profitable attacks. But I do get to completely cut my opponent off of green. And take them off of Jitte Equip. So... How am I winning? Am I winning by stalling for 10 turns? Probably not. Like, I can trade these. But I kind of need to keep a flyer so that if I draw a Jitte, I can just go. I'll probably just lose to land anyway. So I think I take this damage and hope to draw my own Jitte. It is not my own Jitte. Come on. So now I can trade a rogue for a wingmare if I want, and 2 damage. But if I do that, I'll just die. Yeah. So at this point, I'm just gonna pass and hope for the best. Sword of Fire and Ice is in the graveyard, so it doesn't just win. So if I draw Jitte, I attack in with 1 wingmare, get some counters, get 4 life. Yeah, so I can take this hit again. But I'm basically dead to, like, probably anything but me drawing equipment. Alright, what happens if I Alpha Strike? Can I possibly do 9? So my opponent has 5 blockers. No, nowhere close. This is so close to doing it. Yeah, so like my opponent blocks this. I push like 1 point of damage, maybe 3 points of damage if I flicker with something. So like I'm not anywhere close to where I need to be. So we're gonna play towards opponent messing up. And I'll blink out my Stoneforge. I'll get a piece of equipment, and then we'll see if my opponent like somehow messes up killing me in multiple different ways. Alright. I conceded it already. Ugh. We played decently well, but there's not a lot D&T can do against this 4X True Name decks. It just is what it is. Let's battle. So we have a decent hand to fight against fair decks. Alright, how does this one work? Oh, so this is one of those cards that's really good at the beginning of the game and then gets poor later on. I see. Or wait. X damage to that player where X is the number of cards in their hand minus 4. So I have 5 cards in hand, minus 1 is 4. So if I had 7 cards in hand, it'd be 3. Alright, yeah. This card is not elegantly worded. So this just incentivizes me to, like, dump cards from my hand so that it doesn't do any damage to me. So if I have 4 or fewer cards, just does nothing. Yeah, even if Goblin Guide gives me land, like, I'm still not going up on cards here. Thalia on top. That's an awesome, awesome, awesome draw there. Fine with taking 2 from this Goblin Guide. I'm not going to take any more than that. Oh, Lightning Bolt Mom, deal. Play out the Thalia, start taxing them, leave back Mom, end of turn Violin Stoneforge, get a Batterskull, put in Batterskull, have Flicker Wisp backup for the Batterskull in case something goes terribly wrong somehow. Yeah, I don't really think Black Vice is a terribly playable card. Like, that's one of the whole strengths of the archetype of Burn, right? Is that, like, you push so much early damage that all your top decks are live at the end of the game other than just lands. I don't exactly know what opponent can play towards at this point. Like, they can't Sulfuric Vortex me until they have another mana. By then, Batterskull will already have a hit. For anyone who's ever wondered, like, why Ether Vial is a good card, it's stuff like this right here. Like, it's ridiculous the amount of things that I've dumped into play with this card. Alright. So I'm going to want Prelate and Council's Judgment for sure. I'll probably play Chalices even though it's awkward alongside my removal. But, like, I may not, just because, like, Mom and Swords of Plowshares are pretty darn good in this matchup. It's a little awkward. So I'll probably want to trim my Recruiters because they're slow. Palace Jailer is, like, super, super dangerous when your opponent can, like, draw extra cards, even though it's a removal spell that can, like, eat an Eidolon without, like, causing you to take any damage. So I might not actually end up playing Chalices, at least on the draw. Path's super awkward because, like, I'm going on this, like, Thalia and Wingmare plan. And so it just doesn't work well with that side of the game plan. Mirror Crusader, also not stellar. Maybe I'll play one Recruiter just as, like, copy number 5 of Stoneforge. It's probably as good as Crusader. This Ancient Tomb should probably go, actually. It's not something I'm used to having in the deck. And I guess I can play Relic Warder to get rid of Black Vices. It's not a sentence I've ever uttered before. Alright, good enough. Alright, so my opponent has mulligan, and I have a reasonable hand. I am lacking in removal, so it'll kind of suck if my opponent, like, leads on a strong creature-based hand. But if my opponent is on a, like, spell-based hand, having, like, Thalia into Wingmare is nuts. And here's the awkwardness of, like, Path and Thalia together. I'm still going to remove this. It just, like, makes my sequence a little bit worse. Is this worth a turn off? This might be worth a turn off. If I take this turn off, the next turn is, like, play Wingmare. Tick up to 1. The following turn would be all of my cards are so powerful, though. Time's on my side, though. Like, my opponent mulliganed. I'm still at 18 life. I have Jitte in hand. I'm going to take a turn off. The thing that's going to set me over the edge here is that if my opponent has a Smash to Smithereens, and the Smash hits this Ether Vial rather than my Jitte, I think that greatly favors me. Perfect. So this turn I'll play Wingmare. Then next turn I'll play both Thalia and Stoneforge Mystic. And I really hope my opponent doesn't have something like Volcanic Fallout. Just to throw that out there now. Some sort of Pyroclasm-esque effect would be super poor for me. Alright, good. I'm going to get Batterskull for the separate body here. Now I have 2 different pieces of life gain in hand. We'll see how much damage my opponent can do to my board. Ooh! Well, this is great. I'm going to play this one patiently here. I'm just going to play out of Thalia and pass the turn. Alright. So Batterskull's the bait card here. If my opponent has a Smash to Smithereens, they really need to smash this right now before I can untap with it and protect it. And then that means that they have to tap out to do so, meaning I'm 100% free to connect with Jitte here. Note that I'm going to give up 1 point of damage by attacking with the Stoneforge Mystic in order to hold my Thalia up, or my Caracas up for Thalia. It's maybe not necessary to do so because I'm getting the Jitte counters, but it's one of those times where it's just like better to be safe than sorry. And opponent is done with me. Awesome. All right, folks, I'm going to take 2 minutes and run to the bathroom, and then we'll go into round 4 of this league. We are currently 2-1. Alright, I'm back. Hello everyone, my name is Phil Gallagher. I run Thraben University, a site for legacy, death, and taxes, and that's what we're playing tonight. I'm experimenting with the deck list a little bit. This isn't necessarily a deck list that I would recommend bringing to a tournament, but it's something that I want to try out. If you're interested in what the deck list is, feel free to scroll over the Cardboard Live extension on the left-hand side of the screen. By clicking the cards, it will pop out the deck list for you. So, some of the stuff that I'm mucking around with is like more copies of Palace Jailer tonight to just like see how that feels. I'm usually running 2 in my deck lists, 1 in the main, 1 in the sideboard, and I'm running like just like more recruiters rather than more jailers. But if Jailer is good against like both combo and control, with Sneak and Show being like the combo deck that's currently on the rise, then maybe it does make more sense to play more copies of Jailer. Otherwise, I'm just like trying to trim a mom. I'm trying out a couple other things in flex slots, like trying an Ancient Tomb, trying a couple of Bryn Wingmares over other things that I've been playing recently, and kind of like see how it goes. You know, obviously have not reached any real conclusions yet. You know, we're only 3 matches in. Haven't necessarily played against some of the stock matchups that I'm expecting to see. Excuse me, either. Burn, Black Red Reanimator, and then Bug True Name every turn. Please pair me against someone. I want to jam more games with D&T. It's break for me. This is what I want to do. Except for earlier today when I wanted to like play with Merit Lodge. I went and ran through a league with Turbo Depths and it did not go well. I got destroyed by my opponents drawing like their one-ofs multiple games in a row. Like I played against Blue Red Delver and I knew their deck list and they had like 1 Chain of Vapor and it was just like in their opening 8 cards both games. Beyond frustrating. Alright, so we're probably playing against Miracles. Though potentially High Tide. Presuming that I am playing against Miracles, I'm going to keep a hand that has Aether Vial in it, because that card is absurd in the matchup. But this is a weak hand against Miracles other than the Vial. Really hoping to draw something like a Thalia to help like smooth out the early game here. Otherwise, just like playing these out as aggressive flyers is not really where I want to be. Force pitching Cunning Wish, so it looks like it is High Tide. I mean, it could be like Sneak and Show as well, but this is Marcus, so it's probably High Tide, which is bad for me. This is not a good matchup for D&T. I don't think my opponent's playing Candles, based on like their last deck list that I know, but it's real punishing if I'm wrong. So we will name the Candlestick and then say go. You know, both of these are 2 power, so like playing either one of them is fine. If opponent uses a Snapcaster Mage as an Ambush Viper on Revoker, that is a-okay with me. Draws are not strong here. Opponent does not need a lot to beat us. Like, yeah. So how bad will this be for me? It might just be something like a turnabout. Yeah. So if opponent just goes like high tide turnabout time spiral, that is probably enough to set up a win. Geez, turnabout into time spiral. Opponent can whiff. Opponent is going to have a lot of mana. But while this is something that matters, I'm going to nuke their graveyard. I'm going to remove a couple turnabouts from the equation. Alright, I guess I shouldn't auto-yield to everything because, like, I do have a piece of interaction. The Swords to Plowshares can matter if they cast, like, exactly the card Snap. Not Snapcaster Mage, but, like, Snap. Alright, Islands tap for a lot. I was trying to stop this whole turnabout thing. Did not succeed. Alright. We do it again. This is devastating. Alright, so this is just Blue Sun. Does my opponent have enough for a Blue Sun kill yet? Or is it just going to be like draw a whole bunch of cards? It's draw a whole bunch of cards. I've lost track of how much islands are tapping for, but it is a lot. So as soon as opponent gets the Blue Sun again, I will die. Oh yeah. We are most certainly flooding out here. All right, so that can be the Merchant Scroll for the Blue Sun, and then I die. I'm not going to make him click through all that mana. That's fine. This is the point where I am just deterministically dead. Nothing I can do about it. All right, High Tide is a rough matchup. I don't really have things that, you know, matter. Oh boy, Marcus says, I have some spice. Hopefully we'll see it. All right. So, Chalice and Prelate are both very good. Recruiter to find my cards that matter is fine. Surgical is okay. I have a lot of cards that suck. Like, Swords to Plowshares is bad. Palace Jailer is pretty bad. Like, I don't want Umezawa's Jitte. I'd really like to trim some portion of the Stoneforge Mystic package, but I just don't really have that many things to actually bring in. That's kind of the issue here. Like, I also think Revoker is just a 2-1. Marcus's last build that I saw wasn't actually, like, playing with the candles. So, yeah. Don't feel good about this, but I'm going to whack the submit button. This is the best I've got. This hand is awesome. I have Mom into Thalia into Prelate, and can't ask for too much better here. Yeah, note that I'm not going to try to play around Teferi's Realm, because if my opponent resolves Teferi's Realm, WotC will just pay for my league. So that's fine. Super poor attitude to have, but, you know, it is what it is. Note that I'm nowhere in danger of my opponent going off yet, so I think, like, the first attack with Mom is very, very safe. I won't make another one here. So if my opponent brainstorms here because of my Thalia, that means they cannot Force of Will. So that is good news for me. We'll name 1. Opponent can't really win without High Tide. At least not through Thalia. I'm going to let that trigger resolve before porting, just so my opponent can't, like, do something funky. My thought was, like, brainstorm and then, like, move something away. That doesn't work with Prelate in play, but just... I don't think there's any downside to me waiting. Neat. Alright, I don't really know what beats me at this point. now that I know about this search for Azcanta, I'll probably board in my little battle cat. And I guess I'll just board out a Revoker. I'm pretty convinced he doesn't have candles. So I'm thinking about whether or not I should board in something that can answer Thing in the Ice. I know that sounds a little weird to say, but I just kind of got this feeling that my opponent might be playing Thing in the Ice. Like, if D&T is going to board out all your removal, it seems like a really good thing to be playing against me, and it can, like, bounce all my creatures so that you can actually go off. So maybe I slip one Jailer back into the deck so I can have, like, a tutorable target that can answer a Thing in the Ice. At worst, it's like a one-sided draw engine as well. Maybe get that in there over a Crusader. Crusader pairs well with equipment. Get that in there over a Revoker. I'm going to keep and hopefully not get got by my Vial getting countered. Alright, now I have game even if my Vial does get countered. So really, I just want to like prolong the game long enough until I can start dumping in some of my relevant threats. So I think rather than just like play out a Stoneforge, which would prevent me from porting for multiple turns in a row if I were to use it, I think I'm just going to start porting now. Hope to draw a land to play either Wingmare or Prelate next turn. The Brainstorm into follow-up Brainstorm. Awkward. You put it on 1. If you stop the initial high tide, it is very hard for them to go off. Good play by my opponent. I guess for this reason I could have waited until their draw step to do that. Okay, so I'm going to cast Vryn Wingmare this turn. If one of these two cards were to get countered, I would want it to be this one. This is the scary turn. High Tide can pretty consistently go off on 4 lands. With opponent at where they're at resource-wise, this probably means that this is a time spiral situation. Echoing Truth on the Aether Vial. Well, that prompts me to use it. Actually, I should not F6. Because I can draw a Surgical Extraction off a Time Spiral and do something. Well, my hand is gas if I get another turn, but that is a very big if. Opponent says, I'm running 4 Devastation Tide since Teferi's Realm is still bugged. Ugh. So when you play against this deck, there's this time where you just kind of like live in fear, but you might not be dead. That's where I'm at. Opponent only has 3 cards left, so like there's hope for me. The Turnabout creates a lot of mana. Yeah, Marcus actually donated to have me stream High Tide a couple of weeks ago. Marcus, notably better at using Predict than I am. The digging is occurring. Will I get a whiff? If he's selecting High Tide, my thought is no. Alright, this should be able to just Cunning Wish for Brain Freeze, or like Merchant Scroll for Cunning Wish for Brain Freeze, and end it. Or not? Ooh, I have a piece of interaction again. Although it's probably past the point where that matters. Guess I can Surgical High Tide? I don't think that matters. He says, and almost there. Actually, maybe I surgical brainstorm. Mana doesn't seem like the bottleneck at this point. Cards probably are. All right, yeah, there's one snap in here. All right, surgical actually doesn't keep the hand revealed. Yeah, my opponent will either win with Brain Freeze or Blue Sun Zenith me out. So, all right. So now it's Merchant Scroll for Cunning Wish for a kill. Or wait. That works, right? Like, I know I've said that a couple of times, but I feel like I'm missing something. Or like, are the Cunning Wishes already exiled? There we go. Oof. All right, so we're 2-2. Let's see if I can redeem myself here. High Tide is a tricky matchup for D&T because they're a combo deck that can just like play through Thalia relatively well. The first High Tide, it makes Thalia's tax disappear. The second High Tide makes everything profitable, and anything beyond that just makes Thalia irrelevant. Well, not irrelevant, but the tax is just destroyed. I have a great hand if I draw one more land. I would love to curve Mom into Thalia into Wingmare. Reanimator again. I am fine with throwing my Mom under the bus here so that I can play turn 2 Thalia if my opponent doesn't otherwise disrupt me. Oh man, opponent is just hard discarding. That's so good for me. Now if I draw like another land, I will probably just like 100% price them out of this game. That's unfortunate. We're going to be off curve. But what we did is still very powerful. And if opponent draws another land, they can like reanimate this, take 8. You can entomb here. And then I can draw another land, so I can pay both the Thalia tax and the Chancellor tax. Missing the line drop was bad for me, but like at least Aether Vial is a draw that can be helpful for me. One way or another, I am going to need another land to win this game. Now Revoker would be an okay draw. And opponent will, like, more or less 100% be able to reanimate something in their next turn. Ugh. So if my opponent reanimates this, I can't actually Swords to Plowshare it because of like the Thalia tax plus the Chancellor tax. So I'm better off just deploying another card here, even though it's not stellar. I'm going to take Batterskull here because it requires less of a mana investment in order to be good. If opponent exhumes, I get a Mom back, and my Mom plus Batterskull can probably just beat Chancellor, even if I don't draw that the land to remove it anytime immediately. Bleh. Yeah, so this all is fine here. Okay, in what world do I lose this game? I guess I can lose this game if my opponent like produces another creature. It'll be very difficult to do so. But I probably can't afford to wasteland them to like keep the mana noose very, very, very tight. Maybe I can. I could go like my turn Violin Stoneforge, end of their turn Violin Recruiter. Yeah, maybe this card doesn't matter because I can just like answer this with either like blocking with Wingmare or Recruiter. But maybe that's excessively greedy. I guess tapping my Mom here opens me up to like some Tidespout Tyrant shenanigans. But again, I think that's probably fine. Is that a reanimate? Yeah. All right. When you have the reanimator player on the defensive, that is a very good sign. Come on. So I'm going to wait until their upkeep to vial in my Vryn Wingmare. If they have an Entomb and they cast it at end step, I don't think I want to give them the option to just find a Leshnorn and wipe my board. I don't know what their outs would be here, because any creature that they put into play, I can answer with a Palace Jailer. Alright, so what do we do before? Prelate in, Jailer in, Judgment Recruiter, Containment Priest, maybe Relic Warder, Surgical Path. I think I was on the fence about the Chalices, because, again, they're very awkward. So I think I want Stoneforge Mystic package out. I think on the draw I decided Chalice was slow. Crusader's kind of medium. Then I guess I can trim a Flicker Wisp. Maybe 2 Flicker Wisps. Mom's the other thing that I could choose to trim. I expect to lose game 2 when I'm on the draw. This has no graveyard hate, but it has 2 pieces of removal for the first creature. It has a piece of acceleration for if I draw something that does matter. This one is surprisingly good. But I might be able to do better on 6. How many pieces of graveyard hate do I have to mulligan towards? So I have Cleric, Surgical, Priest, only 4 pieces to mulligan towards. I'm going to keep this one, but this is borderline. Oh, my opponent just F6 through their turn, so that's great for me. Ancient Tomb being bros here. Opponent probably fuming over there at the mistake they made. I see. So I'm going to assume that they can reanimate that this turn if they kept this hand. So I'm going to hold up white mana and play out another Vial, taking some damage. This will mitigate some of the damage this Ashen Rider can do, because now it would exile my planes rather than my Ether Vial. Oh, opponent might have just, like, kept a terrible, risky hand and actually, like, not had any land. Alright, now we need to, like, draw, like, anything that matters in order to capitalize on my opponent's mulligan decision. Rec42, thank you very much for your continued support. Yeah, I'm happy to be playing D&T. I'm gonna sit here and, like, tank for a minute, like I'm thinking about putting something in, and then I'm not gonna put anything in. These Aether Vials are not doing anything. Although I may end up, like, casting a Council's Judgment to remove them, just to, like, leave myself with options on future turns. So if you're doing a donation that is money-based, that's done via PayPal. If you're going to do a donation for ticks, then you just coordinate with me to give me the ticks, like, in between games or something like that, and I can take the ticks then, and you can email me a deck list. So I think I'm actually not going to cast this Council's Judgment on the Pithing Needle because these aren't doing anything right now. I'm just going to hold it up. I want my opponent to, like, think I have something like a Containment Priest. Oh, you ask for a trade. That's how that works. I'll show you kind of how it works in between games. It's really simple. What are you thinking about donating for, by the way? Just out of curiosity while I wait here. I do not understand. I wonder if my opponent's hand, like, opening hand was just, like, lands and a couple of creatures. Or something. and they're just like actually super flooded in reality. Grizzlebrand and Archetype of Endurance. All right. There is an assortment of critters in the graveyard. Opponent casts another Faithless Looting. They are digging. I still don't understand the, like, Assassin's Trophy on my Ancient Tomb thing. Maybe they think I have, like, Warping Whale or something, and they were trying to play around that. I'd love to play some Enchantress on stream. I'm not just going to, like, end step Swords to Plowshares that. Because I have a lot of, like, potential draws that can change what I want to do. So now I'll cast a Council Judgment. My opponent will probably have to, like, draw 7 in response. I'll still tag the Grizzlebrand. It's tempting to, like, try and get cute and, like, tag the Aether Vial, Violin, Revoker, Swords of Plowshares, the Grizzlebrand, and go from there. But my opponent has just restocked on cards. Yes, I do always suggest changes to the decks at the end. So usually my formula is I do a sort of opening deck tech, I play the 5 rounds, and then I do some closing thoughts. Alright, opponent is unmasking me. Unluckily for them, I have double Swords to Plowshares. So I played a little bit of Enchantress off stream. Oh, I don't know. It must have been June or July. Ooh, double unmask. That's respectable. Opponent's still digging. I played a lot of the Words of Wind version that ran by just like bouncing all of your opponent's permanents. And that was a lot of fun. Alright, opponent Grave Titan does not actually beat the clock that I have. Just throwing that out there. Yeah, so here I can just... no, I've played mono red painter and red white painter, but never mono blue. So I have a choice here. I can either just, like, remove the Grave Titan, or I can completely ignore it. If I ignore it, I put my opponent to 2, and I just have them dead. My opponent only has 1 card left. Or I can just remove it, put it to 10, and give them a few turns. I saw that Wizards deck. I obviously haven't played it. It's a brand new deck list. I would love to play that, though. It looks super cool. I think I'm probably supposed to just, like, put my opponent on a one turn clock. And just, like, attack in for 2 and pass. Geez, Surgical is about the best possible draw there. Rec, this is 100% a experimental deck list. I'm just trying some things tonight. If my opponent attacks in pre-combat, I might actually block with the Jailer, so that if my opponent exhumes, I can Jailer again. Ling, things are going well. So unless opponent has some instant speed removal,